A selfless grandmother took in a young boy, despite not having much, but she didn't expect this to happen one day. At such a young age, a boy named Ernesto already realizes how many sacrifices his grandmother has made to raise him. He was abandoned as a baby, and without complaint, his grandmother took him in. Knowing what it's like to live in poverty, the boy wakes up inspired so he could one day live in much better conditions with his grandmother. They lived in a dangerous neighborhood and dreamt of getting out. They were informal settlers with a home entirely made out of scrap metal and recyclables found on the streets. The home illegally stood on land that wasn't theirs. Despite their difficult situation, they remained centered on their faith. Ernesto's grandma claims she kneels down every day to pray, searching for the presence of God in order to achieve happiness. Every day, Ernesto and his grandma walk along the highway to sell flowers. The young boy shares that the reason he works so hard is so he can buy everything he needs to study. He one day wants to become a doctor. While selling on the street,
Also, if you have not done so already, please subscribe to our channel and click that notification bell to get inspired by these real-life stories every day. Now, back to the story.
Ernesto came across a content creator named Aaron Murphy, who became interested in his story. Together, they toured Ernesto's house, which stunned Murphy. "No human should live like this," Murphy wrote in his video, showing the small spaces where Ernesto and his grandmother lived. Moved by what he saw, Murphy wanted to do something for Ernesto and his grandmother. He set up a GoFundMe page where people could donate, hoping they could raise enough to build them a decent home. Ultimately, Murphy's fundraiser raised a whopping $49,572, which was more than his initial $45,000 goal. A total of 1,600 donors pitched in for the cause, and their generosity changed Ernesto's life forever. When the donations started pouring in, Murphy decided to take Ernesto and his grandmother on a shopping spree, something they had never experienced before. They took a ride in the El Salvador president's luxury SUV and visited the department store where Ernesto picked out all the books and toys he wanted. For the first time in a long time, Ernesto felt like a kid again. He beamed with joy as he walked through the aisles, picking out toys, books, and a pile of school supplies to sustain his studies. While eating some food after shopping, Ernesto was given another surprise. He received a tablet to use for his studies. His grandmother looked at all their new blessings with awe. "I could have never afforded to give him this," she admitted, almost in tears. Going on a shopping spree wasn't the only thing Murphy had planned for Ernesto. He wanted to do something more sustainable, particularly giving them their dream home and giving them a stable business. Now that Ernesto had everything he needed to study, Murphy wanted him to focus on his schooling. He no longer wanted Ernesto to sell on the streets, so he decided to build Ernesto's grandmother a business. Ernesto also once promised to buy a home for himself and his grandmother one day. He wanted his grandmother to have her own space where she could grow her plants and where they could live comfortably without having to fear being kicked out. With so many donations from kind individuals, Murphy was able to buy one property where Ernesto and his grandmother could live forever. They bought all the appliances and furniture they needed to live comfortably and so much more. A group of volunteers renovated the home, and once it was ready for handover, they bought food and drinks to throw them a big housewarming party. They bought food for the entire community, which was also their way of promoting Ernesto's grandmother's new business. Ernesto and his grandmother were then invited to Murphy's house without realizing they were walking into their own home. "What a beautiful home," the grandmother said as soon as she entered. When they were seated on the couch, Murphy then explained that it wasn't his home. The house and everything inside it was theirs. Ernesto and his grandmother were stunned. Ernesto shared, "I could never have imagined this. Now I no longer have to wake up at midnight with water coming into our shack." After a while, they invited all their neighbors to come and visit the home, where they distributed food and promoted Ernesto's grandma's new business, which was a small convenience store. In a couple of hours, they earned more than what they earned in 10 days. In tears, they thanked Murphy and his team for everything they had done. When Ernesto turns 17, he also has a college fund he can use to become a doctor. Thanks to all the kind people who donated to the family, their lives were changed for good.